You there? The Latino boy in the corner with the dirty sneakers. Come up here now. Julian Thorne's voice sliced through the grand Metropolitan Gallery. 500 elite guests turned. 3 million viewers watched the live stream. Leo Ramirez was 11 years old. His hands, stained with charcoal, trembled. I'm sorry, sir. I was just looking at the brushwork, Leo whispered. He grabbed Leo's shoulder, dragging him into the harsh gallery spotlight. Let's see if you actually have an eye for art, or if you're just loitering where you don't belong. He snapped at his assistants. Bring him a canvas. Let's see him attempt the phantom stroke. The technique that made me $50 million. He leaned close, his lapel mic off, but the gallery mic picking up the friction. Fail quietly, kid. Don't waste my time. The audience held its breath. What Leo did next didn't just prove him wrong. It burned everything Thorne had built on lies to the ground. For hours earlier, Leo had stood in that same gallery with his stomach tied in knots. He lived in the South Bronx with his father and younger sister in a one-bedroom walk-up where the radiator clanked and leaked rusty water. His father was a janitor at the gallery, working the 4 a.m. shift, buffing floors while Leo sat quietly in a supply closet sketching on the back of discarded invoices. Money was always the ghost in the room. Can we afford the rent? Not this month. Maybe the heating bill can wait. Leo had been drawing since he was 4, using burnt matchsticks on the sidewalk because crayons were a luxury. By 7, his art teacher, Mr. Mendez, had pulled his father aside during pickup. Your son has tetrachromacy, Mr. Mendez had said. Most humans have 3 color cones in their eyes. Leo has 4. He sees 100 million colors. He sees ultraviolet spectra the rest of us can't even imagine. His father had smiled, proud but exhausted, wiping bleach stains from his hands. What do we do with that? Private instruction. The Rhode Island School of Design Prep Program. Mr. Mendez paused. It costs money we don't have. So Leo drew in the supply closet. He drew at the community center where the art supplies were donated leftovers. He drew in his room at night, teaching himself perspective from library books. His vision was unusual. He could distinguish between 50 shades of white. He could see the heat map of a drying painting. He didn't know this was rare. He just knew the world looked like an explosion of light. When the letter came saying the community center had been selected for Julian Thorne's visionary gala, the neighborhood erupted. 15 art students would attend as young observers, standing silently to represent the future of art. Leo's father bought him a button-down shirt from the thrift store, ironing it 3 times to hide the fraying collar. Julian Thorne was the god of the modern art world. One gala every year, raising millions for arts education, posing for photos with inner-city kids who looked like props. The press called him a genius. His brand was built on the phantom stroke, the ability to paint photorealistic portraits in under 3 minutes, blindfolded. For museum retrospectives, a knighthood, endorsement deals with Rolex and Apple, and at the center was that signature miracle, the blindfolded portrait of a randomly selected audience member. Except during the tech rehearsal that afternoon, Leo had seen something that didn't make sense. The students had been waiting in the loading dock, instructed to stay invisible while Thorne rehearsed. Leo had wandered near the stage curtains, mesmerized by the lighting rig. And he'd seen Thorne practice the phantom stroke. Thorne had started strong. His movements were theatrical, sweeping, confident. But before he even touched the canvas, Leo saw it. A faint, glowing purple grid projected onto the blank white surface. It was high-frequency UV light, invisible to the naked eye, invisible to the cameras. But to Leo's tetrachromatic eyes, it burned like neon. Thorne wasn't painting blind. He was tracing. The blindfold was sheer mesh, allowing him to see the glowing UV projection that mapped out exactly where to put the brush. Thorne stopped, frustrated, and snapped at his lighting director. The calibration is off. The nose guide is too low. Shift the laser grid 2 millimeters up. The director nodded, typed something into a tablet, and the purple glowing lines on the canvas shifted. Thorne painted again, following the lines perfectly. Too easy, Thorne muttered. It doesn't look like I'm struggling enough. Make the grid pulse so I can time the strokes. Leo stood there confused. He saw the grid. He saw the cheat. That perfect, blind genius wasn't talent. It was technology. He'd gone back to the group and said nothing. Who would believe an 11-year-old janitor's son from the Bronx over a man whose painting sold for $10 million? But now, standing under the spotlight with Thorne's hand gripping his shoulder and 3 million people watching, Leo understood something else. Thorne had seen Leo staring at the rig earlier. This wasn't about giving a kid a chance. This was about intimidation. Making sure Leo felt so small he'd never open his mouth. The ambient music swelled. The blank canvas loomed. Leo's mouth went dry. I don't have a brush, Leo started. Use your fingers, Picasso. Thorne sneered, loud for the audience to hear as playful banter. Just feel the art. But the canvas wasn't just blank. To Leo, it was screaming. The UV projectors were already on, blasting a complex grid of a woman's face, the model sitting in the front row, onto the white surface. Thorne was setting him up to fail against a perfect, invisible guide he assumed Leo couldn't see. Thorne stepped back, crossing his arms. Whenever you're ready. Leo took a breath. His father's voice echoed from that morning. Mijo, you see the world clearly. Never let them fog your glass. He reached for the paint, but stopped. Mr. Thorne. His voice was quiet, but the acoustics carried it. Thorne's smile tightened. Yes. Can you turn off the ultraviolet projector, please? The gallery went silent. Thorne blinked. What? The UV grid. The purple lines on the canvas. Can you turn them off? I want to paint freehand. Confused murmurs rippled through the audience. Thorne's smile froze into a rictus mask. There are no purple lines, son. It's a blank canvas. I can see them, Leo said, his heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. The grid. It's calibrated for the lady in the red dress. You have the nose coordinates at X, 24, Y, 80. The murmur grew louder. Thorne's jaw clenched. You have an active imagination. That's cute. Then can you paint it first? Show me how to do it without the lights. The question hung in the air like smoke. Thorne stared at him. The curators stared. The cameras zoomed in. Excuse me? I want to learn from the master, Leo said, his voice respectful but shaking. Turn off the UV rig and show me the phantom stroke. 3 seconds of silence. Then Thorne laughed, a sharp, barking sound. You want a private lesson right now? No, sir. I just want to see if you can paint without the tracing lines. The gallery erupted. Gasps scattered nervous laughter. Thorne's face flushed a deep, angry crimson. Of course I can paint. I've been painting for 20 years. Then show me. Thorne's hand flexed. Fine, he hissed. You want a demo? He turned to the lighting booth, high up in the balcony. Kill the spot. Give me house lights. No, Leo interrupted. Kill the UV spectrum. Channel 4 on the rig. The lighting director hesitated in the booth. Do it, someone shouted from the back. The director pressed a button. To the audience, nothing changed. The canvas still looked white. But to Leo and to Thorne, the glowing purple safety net vanished. Thorne raised his brush. Watch closely. Thorne's hand moved to the canvas. He started strong, muscle memory guiding the first few strokes of the outline. Confidence. He moved through the jawline with ease. The audience relaxed. The kid was wrong. Then he reached the eyes. This was the detail work. Usually, the UV grid showed him every eyelash, every pupil reflection. Thorne squinted. He hesitated. He dabbed a stroke of blue, then tried to correct it with white. It was too high. The symmetry was off. He tried to fix the left eye, but without the grid, his spacing was gone. The portrait began to warp. One eye lower than the other. The nose crooked. It didn't look like a masterpiece. It looked like a caricature drawn by a tourist. He stopped abruptly, wiped the brush. The humidity in here is ruining the paint viscosity. He forced a smile. That's why we control the environment for the real shows. But Leo had seen enough. And the camera close-ups on the grotesque painting told the story. You didn't paint her, Leo said quietly. Thorne turned, his smile now a snarl. I told you, the conditions are off. But in your documentary, you painted in a hurricane, Leo said. His voice was gaining traction now. I saw it. And in every live demo, the lighting is exactly this specific 400 nanometers frequency. The audience shifted. Phones came out. Art critics adjusted their glasses. What are you implying? Thorne's voice had an edge now, the sophisticated veneer cracking. I have tetrachromacy, Leo said. I see 100 million colors. I see ultraviolet. The grid you use, it's a projection map. It's paint by numbers using light. This is absurd, Thorne scoffed. And the sketches in your early portfolio, Leo continued, the words tumbling out now. The brushwork is different. The pressure is different. It looks like left-handed work. But you're right-handed. The gallery exploded in whispers. Thorne stepped toward him, towering over the boy. You need to stop talking right now. Why?
Leo asked.
And for the first time since being dragged onto the stage, the trembling stopped. Because I'm telling the truth? Because I'm 11 and I'm not supposed to see the cheat codes. I know what I saw at rehearsal. I know what I'm seeing now. Leo looked out at the audience, at the 3 million people online. You don't have the phantom stroke. You have a projector. Thorne's hand shot out, grabbing Leo's wrist. Not hard enough to break, but hard enough to bruise. We're done here. But before he could pull Leo off stage, a voice came from the tech booth. Actually, the kid is right. Everyone turned, craning their necks upward. The lighting director, a man named Marcus who had been running Thorne's shows for a decade, leaned over the railing. He looked pale but resolved. I've been calibrating the grid for 8 years, Julian. Every single show. You haven't painted freehand since 2015. The gallery went completely silent. Thorne's grip on Leo's wrist went slack. He stared up at the balcony like Marcus had just shot him. You're fired, Thorne screamed. I know, Marcus yelled back. But he's a kid from the Bronx, and he's got more guts than I've had for a decade. The silence in the gallery was absolute. 500 millionaires held their breath. This is ridiculous, Thorne sputtered, turning to the crowd. You're going to believe a disgruntled employee and a confused child over me? I was knighted by the Queen. Then prove him wrong. A famous art critic shouted from the second row. Paint the boy.
Right now.
No lights. Just paint. Thorne's face went from red to ashen gray. I just did. No, you made a mess. We all saw it. The crowd was turning. The air felt charged with electricity. Thorne looked at Leo, standing there in his thrift store shirt, and something ugly twisted in his chest. Fine, Thorne said through gritted teeth. You think you're such a prodigy? You paint me. No grid. No help. Right now. Leo's hands shook. This was the moment where he either proved himself or became the joke Thorne wanted him to be. Mr. Mendez's voice carried from the back. Use your eyes, Leo. Just draw what you see. Leo closed his eyes for a second. He visualized the room, not just the shapes, but the heat, the light, the ultraviolet aura of the anger radiating off Thorne. He opened his eyes, grabbed a stick of thick charcoal, and approached the clean side of the canvas.
He began to draw.
His hand moved fast. Not frantic, but fluid. He didn't look at the canvas, he looked at Thorne. He captured the slump of the shoulders, the panic in the eyes. The first minute was silence. Then, the image began to emerge. It wasn't just a likeness. It was a revelation. Leo used the charcoal to create depth that shouldn't have been possible with a single color. He shaded the hollows of Thorne's cheeks, the sweat on his brow. He didn't just draw Thorne's face. He drew his fear. He worked for 4 minutes. When he stepped back, wiping his black-stained hands on his pants, nobody moved. The portrait on the canvas was terrifyingly good. It captured the soul of a man whose empire was crumbling. Then the gallery erupted. 500 people on their feet. The applause was a physical wave. The young observers were jumping up and down. Mr. Mendez was weeping openly. The online stream exploded. Within 30 seconds, clips of The Boy Who Saw the Truth were trending. Within a minute, Leo Ramirez was a household name. Thorne looked at the portrait, a mirror of his own demise, and looked like he'd been struck. Isabella Ross, the most powerful curator in New York, walked up to the stage. She ignored Thorne completely. She knelt down to eye level with Leo. "That," she said, her voice shaking, "is the most honest thing I have seen in this gallery in 20 years. Thorne tried to speak, but the cameras had turned away from him. They were focused on the boy in the dirty sneakers. "You're going to regret this," Thorne whispered to Leo, leaning in one last time. "You and your janitor father. I will bury you in legal fees. You will never hold a brush in this city again." Leo looked at him. "I don't need your city to paint. I just need my eyes." Thorne stormed off stage. The moment he vanished behind the curtains, the internet began to dismantle him. His Wikipedia page was locked within 5 minutes. Julian Thorne fraud was the top search on Google. But the victory lasted exactly 20 minutes before the real war began. Leo sat in the green room, his father clutching him, while suits argued in the hallway. Thorne's lawyer arrived, a slick man named Sterling. "Mr. Ramirez," Sterling said to Leo's dad, "we have a proposal." He slid a paper across the table. Leo signs this statement retracting his claims. He admits he was confused. He apologizes. He told the truth, Leo's dad said, his accent thick, his spine straight. "If he signs," Sterling continued, ignoring the father, "Mr. Thorne will provide a full scholarship to the Royal Academy in London. Tuition, housing, travel. A $200,000 value." Leo's dad froze. That was a life raft. A way out of the Bronx. A future. "And if he doesn't? Then we sue you for defamation. We sue the community center. We sue the school district. And," Sterling paused, "we know about your immigration status interview coming up next month. Legal troubles complicate those things." The threat hung heavy and suffocating. "I'm not signing it," Leo said. "Leo, be quiet," his dad whispered.
"No, Papa."
"I saw the lights," he cheated. Leo looked at the lawyer. "I won't say I'm blind just because he's rich." "Then we will destroy you," Sterling said, snapping his briefcase shut. "By tomorrow morning, you won't be the hero. You'll be the ungrateful brat who attacked a legend." Sterling was right. The next morning, the headlines weren't about Leo's talent. Prank gone wrong. Did student sabotage gala? Sources say Ramirez family seeking payout. The myth of tetrachromacy. Experts skeptical. Thorne's PR machine was a tank. They posted photos of Leo's dad's old parking tickets. They found a neighbor who said Leo was disruptive. They doxed the apartment address. By noon, reporters were banging on their peeling door. Leo's dad was fired from the gallery via text message. Security risk. Leo sat on his bed, reading the comments. Send them back. Ungrateful kid. Thorne is a genius. This kid is a scammer. He felt small. He felt like he had ruined his father's life. Then, at 2 p.m., a video appeared. It was a woman in a dimly lit studio. Her hands were covered in paint. "My name is Elena Russo. I am a ghost painter. And I painted the silent ocean, red dusk, and solitude. All attributed to Julian Thorne." She held up the original sketches. "I was paid $500 a canvas and signed an NDA. But watching a boy get destroyed for seeing the truth, I can't do it anymore." The floodgates opened. Within an hour, Marcus, the lighting director, posted the technical schematics of the UV rig. By 4 p.m., 3 art students from Thorne's masterclass came forward. "He never painted in front of us. He just critiqued. We did the work." Thorne sued everyone. A $20 million defamation suit against Leo, his father, Elena, and Marcus. It was a scare tactic. He knew they couldn't afford a defense. Leo's dad sat at the kitchen table, head in hands. "We have to leave, Mijo. We can't fight this." "Yes, you can." The knock at the door wasn't the police. It was a woman in a sharp navy suit. "I'm Sarah Jenkins. Civil Liberties Union. We represent whistleblowers." And Leo, she smiled, is the youngest whistleblower we've ever seen. We're taking the case. Pro bono. And us. A group of people stood behind her. It was the other parents from the gala. Mr. Mendez. Neighbors. Even the owner of the bodega down the street. We started a legal defense fund, Mr. Mendez said. We raised $15,000 this morning. It's not millions, but it's a start. The court hearing was 6 weeks later. Thorne arrived in a black limousine. Leo arrived on the subway. The judge, Justice O'Malley, was a no-nonsense woman with thick glasses. She looked at the motion for injunction. Mr. Sterling, she said, you want to silence an 11-year-old for describing what he saw? We want to stop the spread of malicious lies, Your Honor. Is it a lie? The judge asked. Mr. Thorne, you are present. There is an easel in this courtroom. Prove it. Your Honor, this is highly irreg. Overruled. If he can paint, he paints. If he can't, the boy walked. Thorne stood up. He looked at the easel. He looked at the gallery, filled with Elena, Marcus, and Leo. He picked up the brush. He stood there for 2 minutes. The silence was deafening. His hand hovered, trembling. Without the grid, without the ghost painters, without the lie, he was nothing. He threw the brush down. This is a circus, he shouted. I am an artist, not a performing monkey. Case dismissed. Judge O'Malley banged her gavel. And Mr. Thorne? I'm referring this strictly to the fraud division. Thorne's fall was fast. The gallery rescinded his representation. The museums took down his work. The phantom stroke became a synonym for a con. He filed for bankruptcy 4 months later.
But the story isn't about him.
Leo didn't go to the Royal Academy. Not yet. He started the Open Canvas Project in the Bronx. With the settlement money from the countersuit, they renovated the community center. They bought real easels, real paints. The industry changed. A new law, the Transparency in Art Act, required galleries to disclose if works were produced by assistants or technology. Ghost painters formed a union, demanding credit on the plaque. 1 year later, Leo had his first solo show. It wasn't in a fancy Manhattan gallery. It was in the gym of the community center. Admission was free. The centerpiece was a painting of his father, sleeping in a chair after a double shift. It was painted in colors only Leo could see, shimmering blues of exhaustion, warm golds of love. A reporter asked him, Leo, do you wish you had stayed quiet? You could have taken the money. Leo looked at the painting. He looked at the kids in the room, holding paintbrushes he helped pay for. No, Leo said. The truth has a color. It's the brightest thing I've ever seen. I wouldn't trade that for anything. So, here's the question. If you were Leo's dad, staring at eviction notices, and a lawyer offered you $200,000 to shut your kid up, would you take it? Be honest. Poverty is loud. Integrity is quiet. Drop your answer below. And go back to minute 12. Watch Thorne's face when the lighting director speaks up. That is the face of a man realizing his money can't buy silence anymore. If this story made you want to pick up a brush or just speak your truth, subscribe. The world needs more Leos. Maybe that's you.